Real Madrid had Zidane. Real Madrid had Figo. Real Madrid had Ronaldo. Real Madrid had Raúl. Real Madrid even signed David Beckham. And somehow, the player they missed most was Claude Makélélé. Think about that. One of the most talented teams in football history. One of the most famous teams in football history. Yet the player they couldn't replace wasn't the superstar. It wasn't the goal scorer. It wasn't the headline maker. It was Claude Makélélé. Because football remembers the stars. But the smartest people in football remember the players who make the stars shine. Born in Kinshasa, in what is now the Democratic Republic of Congo, in 1973, Makélélé's journey was far from glamorous. His family moved to France when he was young. Football quickly became his passion. But unlike many future stars, he didn't possess the qualities that usually attract attention. He wasn't scoring spectacular goals. He wasn't producing flashy skills. He wasn't appearing on magazine covers. Instead, he mastered something far more important, doing whatever the team needed. As his career developed through Nantes, Marseille, and Celta Vigo, Makélélé earned a reputation for hard work and intelligence. He understood space. He understood danger. He understood responsibility. The jobs most players avoided. The jobs most supporters never noticed. Some people called players like him water carriers, workers, support players. The smartest minds in football saw something very different. They saw the foundation everything else was built upon. Eventually he arrived at Real Madrid, the home of superstars, the home of Galácticos. Zidane, Figo, Ronaldo, Raúl, Roberto Carlos. Names that filled stadiums around the world. And quietly behind them all stood Claude Makélélé. Every great orchestra needs a conductor. Every great building needs foundations. Every great football team needs balance. Makélélé provided that balance. When attackers surged forward, he covered. When defenders were exposed, he protected them. When matches became chaotic, he restored order. The stars got the applause. Makélélé got the responsibility. The stars got the headlines. Makélélé got the hard work. And he never complained. The strange thing about truly important people is that nobody notices them when everything is working. Nobody talks about electricity when the lights are on. They only notice when everything goes dark. In 2003, Real Madrid allowed him to leave. Many supporters barely reacted. Many believed he could easily be replaced. After all, they still had the Galácticos. What difference could one midfielder make? Football was about to find out. Makélélé joined Chelsea. Real Madrid moved on without him. Yet something strange happened. The stars remained. The balance disappeared. The trophies became harder to find. Suddenly, the player many considered replaceable looked irreplaceable. Years later, fans would look back and ask, was selling Claude Makélélé Real Madrid's biggest mistake? At Chelsea, the answer became clearer every season. José Mourinho arrived and immediately understood what he had. Mourinho knew something many others didn't. The best teams aren't built around stars. They're built around balance. Claude was that balance. Chelsea became one of the strongest teams England had ever seen. League titles, records, dominance. Not because Makélélé scored goals. Not because he chased headlines. Because he allowed everyone else to be at their best. One famous quote perfectly explains his value. When discussing Makélélé's departure from Real Madrid, it was said, "Why put another layer of gold paint on a Bentley when you're losing the entire engine?" The stars were the paint. Claude Makélélé was the engine. And suddenly the entire football world understood. Most children dream of becoming Zidane. Most children dream of becoming Ronaldo. Most children dream of becoming Ronaldinho. Very few dream of becoming Claude Makélélé. Yet every manager wanted a player exactly like him. Because managers understand something supporters eventually learn. The most important player isn't always the most famous. Football has produced more skillful midfielders. Football has produced more creative midfielders. Football has produced midfielders who scored more goals. But football has rarely produced a player who understood his role better than Claude Makélélé. Week after week, season after season, he did exactly what his team needed. Nothing more, nothing less. Years later, modern football is full of holding midfielders, players who protect the defense, control transitions, provide balance. Before Rodri, before Sergio Busquets, before countless others mastered the role, there was Claude Makélélé. And his influence can still be seen every weekend across world football. Football remembers the goals. Football remembers the superstars. Football remembers the Galácticos. But football also remembers Claude Makélélé. Not because he chased fame. Not because he chased headlines. Not because he demanded attention. Because he made greatness possible. The stars shone brighter because he was there. The teams were stronger because he was there. The trophies arrived because he was there. And in the end, football gave him the ultimate compliment. It named a position after him. And that is why Claude Makélélé will always remain a true footballing icon. Not because he scored spectacular goals. Not because he dominated newspaper headlines. But because he proved something every great team eventually learns. The most important player in the room isn't always the loudest. Sometimes, it's the one doing the work nobody notices. What is your favorite Claude Makélélé memory?